You know that moment when you're lying in bed at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone who once made you feel like you were floating on clouds now makes you feel like you're drowning? You remember those early days when his voice was the first thing you wanted to hear in the morning and the last thing before you fell asleep? You felt chosen, special, like you had found your person. But somewhere along the way, that same love that lifted you up started tearing you apart from the inside. The sweet words became criticism, the attention became control, and the passion became a battlefield where you always seemed to be losing. If you've been there, if you felt that crushing weight of loving someone who slowly started breaking you down instead of building you up, then what I'm about to share with you today will finally give you the answers you've been searching for. Nietzsche, one of history's most brutally honest philosophers, understood something about love that most people refuse to acknowledge. He saw through the romantic illusions we're fed and revealed the darker psychological forces that turn love into a source of pain. Today, I'm going to share with you 18 brutal truths that will change how you see relationships forever. What I'm about to reveal to you are psychological truths that most people live their entire lives without understanding. These aren't the sugar-coated relationship advice you hear everywhere else. These are the hidden patterns, the unconscious behaviors, the secret confessions that people make without even realizing it. Nietzsche believed that most of human behavior is driven by unconscious forces that we barely understand about ourselves. And nowhere is this more evident than in how we love and how we destroy that love. I'm going to break this down into 3 parts, and each part builds on the previous one. If you skip ahead, you'll miss crucial connections that tie everything together. By the end of this video, you'll have a completely different understanding of why your relationships have felt the way they have. And, more importantly, you'll have the knowledge to recognize these patterns before they trap you again. Let me start by explaining something that will change how you see every interaction from now on. Every single person you meet is wearing a mask. Not a literal mask, but a psychological one. We create these masks early in life to survive socially, to get love, to avoid rejection. But here's what Nietzsche understood that most people don't. These masks always crack under pressure. And when they crack, people reveal their true selves through behaviors they can't control. The person who claims to be confident but constantly needs validation. The person who says they love you but treats you like a possession. The person who promises you the world but makes you feel small. These aren't contradictions, these are confessions. Your job is to learn how to read them. Truth number 1. When someone constantly talks about how much they've changed, they're confessing they haven't. The person who keeps telling you how different they are now, how they've grown, how they're not like they used to be, is actually revealing their deep fear that they haven't changed at all. Nietzsche called this the revenge of the repressed. What we try hardest to convince others about ourselves is usually what we're least convinced about internally. If he's constantly telling you he's not the cheating type anymore, not the angry person he used to be, not the commitment phobe he once was, his unconscious is screaming the opposite. A person who is truly transformed doesn't need to announce it constantly because their actions speak louder than their words. Truth number 2. People who brag about their emotional intelligence usually have the least. There's something called projection. And it happens when we attribute to ourselves qualities we desperately wish we had. The person who constantly talks about how empathetic they are, how emotionally aware, how good they are at reading people, is often compensating for feeling emotionally disconnected or confused. They're creating a false self to hide their emotional inadequacy. Watch for the gap between what they claim about their emotional skills and how they actually handle conflict, disappointment, or your needs when they're inconvenient. Truth number 3. The person who says, "I don't play games," is usually the master player. This is classic Nietzschean thinking. We often become what we claim to despise. Someone who emphasizes how straightforward they are, how they hate drama, how they always say what they mean, is often the most manipulative person in the room. They've learned that the best way to manipulate others is to position themselves as the anti-manipulator. They gain your trust by claiming to be everything their previous partners accused them of not being. Meanwhile, they're playing a deeper, more sophisticated game. Truth number 4. When someone criticizes others for qualities they themselves possess, they're having an unconscious conversation with their own shadow. Nietzsche wrote extensively about the shadow self, those parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. Listen carefully when someone consistently criticizes others. The cheater who's always suspicious of your faithfulness. The emotionally unavailable person who calls others clingy. The narcissist who labels everyone else as selfish. They're not really talking about other people. They're having an argument with the parts of themselves they can't face. Truth number 5. People who need to control your social connections are confessing their own sense of inadequacy. When someone gradually tries to isolate you from friends and family, or when they have something negative to say about everyone close to you, they're revealing their deepest fear. That if you have other perspectives, you'll see them clearly. They need to be your only source of reality because they know their version of reality doesn't hold up to scrutiny. This isn't love or protection, it's psychological survival. They need you dependent because they can't compete with your support system. Truth number 6. The person who love bombs you in the beginning is showing you exactly how they'll manipulate you later. Love bombing isn't love. It's a psychological strategy, often unconscious, where someone overwhelms you with attention and affection to create dependency. Nietzsche understood that intensity isn't depth. When someone comes on extremely strong at the beginning, showering you with gifts, constant attention, future plans, and declarations of love, they're revealing their manipulation playbook. They've learned that creating an emotional high makes the inevitable low more devastating and more binding. Pause the video for just a second. You know that feeling when something doesn't add up, but you can't quite put your finger on what? That gut instinct when he says one thing, but something in his energy feels completely different? How many times have you ignored that inner voice and regretted it later? You're not paranoid. You're intuitive. And if you've experienced this before, you're not alone. Write in the comments, "My intuition already warned me," and share briefly what happened. You don't need to go into details, just whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to read to start trusting herself more. Sometimes feeling understood is the first step to valuing ourselves more. And I read every single comment. Now that you understand how masks work, let me show you what happens when those masks start to crack under pressure. This is where things get really revealing, because stress and unexpected situations force people to show you who they really are beneath the performance. The confident person becomes controlling when threatened. The easygoing person becomes passive-aggressive when they don't get their way. The honest person starts gaslighting when questioned. These aren't personality flaws. These are psychological confessions. Truth number 7. When someone gets angry at your boundaries, they're confessing they were counting on your lack of them. A healthy person respects boundaries because they have their own. But someone who reacts with anger, sulking, or manipulation when you set limits is revealing something crucial. Their entire strategy with you was based on your willingness to sacrifice yourself. They don't see you as a separate person with valid needs. They see you as an extension of themselves that should automatically comply. Their anger at your boundaries is actually fear that their source of supply is becoming unavailable. Truth number 8. People who can't apologize genuinely are confessing that their ego is more important than your pain. Watch how someone apologizes, because it tells you everything about their character. A real apology takes responsibility without deflection, acknowledges the impact of their behavior, and includes changed actions. But someone who says, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "I'm sorry but you," or who turns every apology into an attack on you, is revealing their deepest psychological pattern. They literally cannot tolerate being wrong because their entire sense of self depends on being superior. Truth number 9. When someone punishes you with silence or withdrawal after conflict, they're showing you their emotional age. The silent treatment isn't maturity, it's emotional terrorism. It's what children do when they don't get their way. They take their toys and go home. An adult who uses silence as a weapon is confessing that they never learned healthy conflict resolution. They're stuck in a childhood pattern where love is withdrawn as punishment. They're not processing the conflict. They're trying to train you like an animal to never challenge them again. Truth number 10. The person who never admits fault in any of their past relationships is telling you exactly how they'll treat you. Listen carefully when someone tells you about their relationship history. If every ex was crazy, if every breakup was entirely the other person's fault, if they were always the victim in every story, they're revealing their complete inability to take responsibility or grow from experience. This isn't bad luck with partners. This is a personality pattern. They're showing you that when your relationship inevitably has problems, you'll be the new crazy ex in their next relationship story. Truth number 11. When someone love bombs you after treating you poorly, they're confessing they know exactly what they did wrong. That sudden shift from cold and distant to overwhelmingly affectionate isn't proof they've changed. It's proof they're consciously manipulating your emotions. They know exactly which buttons to push to get you back because they've been studying your weaknesses. This hot and cold cycle is designed to create trauma bonding. Your nervous system becomes addicted to the relief of their return, making you more willing to accept poor treatment for moments of false intimacy. Truth number 12. People who accuse you of not trusting them are usually giving you reasons not to trust them. Someone who consistently violates your boundaries while complaining that you don't trust them is playing a psychological shell game. They want you to focus on your trust issues instead of their untrustworthy actions. Trust isn't a feeling you owe someone. It's something earned through consistent, reliable behavior. When someone makes you feel guilty for not trusting them while continuing behaviors that erode trust, they're confessing that they know they're untrustworthy. Now we get to the deepest level, the truths that reveal the childhood wounds that drive adult relationship patterns. Nietzsche believed that most adult behavior is an unconscious attempt to heal or repeat childhood experiences. The way someone treats you in a relationship isn't really about you. It's about the scared, wounded child inside them trying to survive in the only way they learned how. Understanding this doesn't mean you should tolerate poor treatment, but it will help you see patterns clearly so you can protect yourself. Truth number 13. When someone tells you about their childhood pain before telling you about their dreams, they're confessing what's really driving them. Pay attention to what someone talks about first and most frequently. The person who leads with their trauma, who defines themselves by their wounds, who uses their pain as their primary source of identity, is telling you something crucial. They're still living in their wound. They haven't healed. They've organized their entire personality around their damage. This person will unconsciously recreate their childhood dynamics with you because that's the only version of love they understand. Truth number 14. How someone treats people who can't benefit them reveals everything about their character. Watch how they treat servers, cashiers, people they don't need to impress. The person who is charming to your face but dismissive to others is showing you exactly how they'll treat you once the honeymoon phase ends. This isn't about social anxiety or having bad days. This is about core character. They're confessing that their kindness is performance, not genuine care. Truth number 15. When someone consistently forgets important things about you, they're confessing you're not important to them. Someone who remembers every detail about their hobbies, their work, their interests, but consistently forgets your important dates, your preferences, your feelings, isn't having memory problems. They're having priority problems. What we care about, we remember. When someone shows you through their actions that you're forgettable, believe them. They're telling you exactly where you rank in their internal world. Truth number 16. People who need you to be smaller so they can feel bigger are confessing their deepest inadequacy. The person who criticizes your successes, minimizes your achievements, or gets uncomfortable when you shine is revealing their most shameful secret. They feel fundamentally inadequate. Instead of working on themselves, they've chosen to manage their insecurity by dimming your light. They need you to stay small because your growth threatens the story they tell themselves about why they're not growing. Truth number 17. When someone says they want to fix or save you, they're confessing they need you broken. This sounds romantic, but it's actually psychological control. Someone who is attracted to your problems rather than your potential, who seems energized by your struggles rather than your successes, needs you to stay wounded so they can feel needed. They don't want you to heal because a healed you might not need them anymore. They're confessing that their entire sense of worth depends on being superior to you. Truth number 18. The patterns someone learned in childhood are their unconscious confessions about what they expect from love. This is the deepest truth Nietzsche understood about human nature. We don't consciously choose love, we unconsciously repeat it. The person whose parents showed love through criticism will criticize you and call it care. The person who learned that love meant drama will create chaos to feel connected. The person who learned that love was conditional will constantly test whether you'll abandon them. They're not choosing these behaviors consciously. They're confessing through their actions what love felt like when they first learned about it. Everything I've shared with you today comes back to one central truth that Nietzsche understood. Observing others is really observing ourselves. The patterns you recognize in others exist somewhere in your own unconscious. The red flags you've learned to spot in relationships are often the same patterns you've been unconsciously attracted to because they feel familiar. This isn't about judging yourself. It's about understanding that we all have unconscious programming from childhood that influences our adult choices. The difference between conscious and unconscious people isn't that conscious people don't have wounds. It's that they've done the work to understand their wounds so they don't unconsciously inflict them on others or attract people who will inflict wounds on them. When you truly understand these 18 truths, you'll start seeing relationships completely differently. You'll stop taking things personally that were never about you. You'll start recognizing patterns before they trap you. And most importantly, you'll start choosing partners based on their actions and emotional maturity rather than your chemistry and their potential. So let me ask you this. Which of these truths hit you the hardest? Which one made you think about a past relationship or a current situation in a completely new way? I want you to pause for a moment and really think about it, because that truth that made you feel most uncomfortable is probably the one your unconscious most needs you to understand. Drop a comment and let me know which truth resonated with you most deeply. And if this video opened your eyes to patterns you hadn't seen before, give it a like, because that tells the algorithm that this kind of deep, honest content is what people actually want to see. If you made it this far, it's because something inside you recognized these truths. You're not alone on this journey of learning to read the hidden signals in relationships. Here on this channel, we've created a safe space where women like you learn to trust their intuition more and make more conscious choices in love. This isn't about becoming suspicious of everyone, but about protecting yourself with knowledge. If you want to keep uncovering these secrets that no one else teaches us, if you want to continue this journey of understanding the psychology behind relationships, hit that subscribe button. It's not just a button you're pressing, it's you choosing to empower yourself. And turn on notifications, because every week we bring you new revelations that can transform how you see relationships. You deserve healthy relationships, and knowledge is power. Remember, the goal isn't to become cynical about love. The goal is to become conscious about love. When you understand these patterns, you can choose partners who've also done their inner work, who can love you without needing to control you, who can support your growth instead of feeling threatened by it. That's when love becomes what it was always meant to be. A place where two whole people choose to grow together instead of two wounded people trying to heal each other. And if you found this valuable, share it with a friend who needs to hear these truths. Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do for someone is help them see clearly.